So welcome everybody to Quickstart 4. And this is your first offer. I'm going to be going over the basic overview and process of putting together your first offer and some of the things that you'll need to do. And of course, following along in the sessions of Quickstart, we have gone through Quickstart 1, which is getting onto our core programs, Quickstart 2, which is getting your business plan organized, and Quickstart 3, which is working with buyers, so buyer presentations. The fourth session is your first offer, and Google Classroom is something we're now implementing within the process. So some of the managers are currently using it. Some are still getting on the program, and that means that they will be able to invite you to the Google Classroom for each session. So each session would be separate. So if you're looking at your Google Classroom, you may only see 1, 2, and 3. And you need to be still invited to 4 or vice versa, different sessions. All 6 are on mine, and we'll go through them individually. Now, I'm actually today in my account, so it's going to look a tiny bit different than what you would see because I have edit privileges. But if you're looking to get onto the Google Classroom, you should have an invite link sent by, again, your manager. Or you can go into the Google Apps as you're signed into your Century 21 Google account and just slide down all the way to the bottom, which is where all the Century 21 stuff is and Google Classroom's located. You'll click on Google Classroom, and if you've been invited, you'll be able to accept that invitation and get into Quickstart 4. So we'll go right into Quickstart 4. If you are one-on-one with your managers, they may ask you to just click on the Meet link, which will allow them to share their screen and go through the presentation with you. Today's presentation will be on YouTube. So if you have yet to schedule a session with your manager, make sure you do that. This is a good preview for what you're going to go through with the manager, and it gives them an ability to kind of move through the content a little quicker, and then you can ask some questions. So it's a great resource to be on the YouTube channel. When you're in Quickstart 4, you will have a class. This is like a virtual classroom, just like you would open a door and walk in and here's the classroom. So you're able to announce something to your class like, hey, everyone, my name's Andy, been with the company a few years, but if you have any questions, you can always contact me, whatever you want to announce to the class. That's the stream. And then over on the second little tab at the top, you'll have the class work. And that is where all the good stuff's located. Of course, there's people, and those are the people that I can invite, and I'm the teacher. So, not to worry about the people section. So really, it's just the stream and the classwork session. So as you click on Classroom, there will be step 1, which is the presentation, and then some links as well as videos. And each session will have its little sections, so of content that that's associated with this session of Quickstart. The first thing I'm going to do is go into the presentation, and I'm going to go through that with you. Last year's video is in there to review. So the content is very similar to what we did last year, but we have updated our presentation, and this new video will be added to the video presentation moving forward. So I'll click on the presentation PDF. That will allow us to bring it up on the screen, and hopefully everybody can see that. Click off that. Here we go. Your first offer. And I'll bring it a little bigger so it fills the full screen. So we're going to take a look at the process that you're going to need to go through when preparing an offer for a buyer, and we'll slash it as tenant as well. You obviously will need to go through a little bit different processes with the tenant, but the basic offer process is very similar in how we can support you. So we're going to do a quick review of last session to see how people are going with the Quickstart session, the offer preparation and the offer process and where to start, how to construct an offer, presentation of offers, multiple offers, and then we're going to talk about RealSatisfied as the bonus material that we have in each of our sessions for your online reputation. Just so you know, this is an overview process of the offer process. This is not getting right into the details of how to negotiate or, the best ways to present a multiple offer or, the real nitty gritty. The Quickstart program is designed in order to show you the basic process and not to get you too confused, as you may be are in that situation already. Starting off in real estate, there's so many aspects of it that it can get foggy. And that's why the Quickstart session's there I'm suggesting if you're not quite there yet, actually, the very first thing I say is, if you're falling behind, you're not quite up on all the homework, feel free to go back in time and take a little bit more time to complete the homework from the session 2 and 3. So you can't really go ahead and keep, feeding your brain with information if you haven't accomplished anything. And I think, no, that's not my quote today. One of the quotes is, following through, but today's quote is, the best investment on earth is earth. And purchasing a property, obviously that makes sense. The homework assignments, have you previewed a minimum of 10 homes per week? We are able to go out and see homes again. I don't know how many buyers or sellers really want you in their home just to preview homes. So typically what I'm doing with buying agents or agents when they're, just to get to know the market, is really get on to your MLS system and keep an eye on what things are being listed for and what they're selling for. Also start to really know the value of areas and the new listings that come up on the market. So I can ask you at any point in time, so what's the best deal in Newmarket this week? And they can, hopefully you'll be able to answer that if your area is Newmarket. If your area is Hamilton, then you should be able to say, oh my gosh, you should see the one that they just listed. It's way underpriced at $799. They're holding off offers till Friday. And let's see where it goes for. I bet you 1.1, right? This is what you need to say. Because when when a buyer or a general public, your friends, your family, anyone asks you a question like, how's the real estate market? They're not looking for, it's great. It's not rhetorical. It's not something that they want to know what is really going on in the real estate market. And if they're sort of, they don't even know it sometimes, but they're testing you. They're testing your knowledge to find out whether or not you're really in the real estate market. And if you're able to say, oh yeah, did you see the one that just came up on? And it's, oh, really? It had a beautiful pool, et cetera. Oh, I was thinking about that, but we'll stay away from pools. And they'll have those conversations, but they'll automatically sort of put you in the category of, this is a person I might consider using as a real estate agent, or referring you to somebody that might be buying or selling. Have you added a minimum of 10 contacts into your CRM? So every week, we want 10 contacts in there. And that's not just Aaron Richardson, my phone number. I want you to call. I'll call, let's say, Allie, give you a call this week and say, Allie, it's been a long time. We haven't talked in a while, but I, just want to apologize. I really want to stay in more contact with you. And in order to do that, I'm just updating all my contact lists. So, and I noticed I didn't have your address. Do you mind if I grab that from you? And they'll have no problem giving you their address. And then you can start saying, how's the family? How's everything going? Put the business up front so they don't think you're ungenuine. And ask them for their address. You need a phone number, you need an email address, and you need their physical address. If you remember session 2 with business planning, the top 4 or 5 things you're going to do in order to generate business is going to be based on an address. So whether it's sending them something in the mail, dropping by their house, giving them a market evaluation, calendars, there's tons of things you can do if you know where they live. Okay. Let's see your buyer presentation. If you haven't yet already, send your buyer presentation off to your manager and say, what do you think? And they'll say, well, switch it up here and there, maybe add this slide out, take away that slide. So we can just have a look and maybe even put it on file so we can see your progression over the next few years and have that. But if you don't have a buyer presentation, you're not up and going, right? You do not, if a buyer came to you today and said, I'm looking to buy a house, and you start showing them houses, that process is going to go very poorly for you and your buyer, and you're not going to get any referrals. Why? Because they're not prepared without going through the process in a 1 to 2 hour presentation and really educate them on the process and get them ready to purchase a house properly. They'll be super impressed and they'll have no problem committing to you, and you will not lose that buyer. So show me your filled out your web forms representation form. So one of the assignments was to watch the web form videos to see how to go in there and print off forms, and your representation forms during your presentation is what you're going to pull out and get that signature. So at this point, if you're falling behind, let us know and just take your time. Don't rush through it and get things accomplished. That's the most important thing. So you have somebody, they're looking to put an offer in. So you've sat down with them, done your buyer presentation, you found the house, they're all ready. There's a few different ways we can do this. So the web form system set up to allow the agent easy access to fill in the information needed to construct the offer. So web forms, which is located on your Stratus or your Matrix system, you can click on web forms, go in there. We template them. So we put in the templates for the forms you need. We make it as easy as possible for you. But you need to make sure, the most important thing is to ensure that the buyer needs are met and understand the risks and rewards involved in the offer. When deciding for the clauses in there, you must represent your buyer's best interest. Also realize the property is unique. So if it's an old century home, you're going to need some clauses in there in terms of insurance, possibly. Maybe if it's a home that it was in the 60s, 70s, and maybe it has aluminum wiring, you're going to put a clause in there that maybe the seller will complete the following before closing and have all the copper tipped aluminum receptacles, copper tips, so that you can get insurance and have an insurance certificate, a VSA. So these are all different things that can come up in a property. You need to know these things and to take them into consideration when you're putting an offer in. Okay. We can type your offers for you. Okay. And I'm going to go through some of the things that you need to do ahead of that. But we can do the typing of the offers, and we'll get to that in a minute. So the front desk is your best resource for that. First of all, do you have the following? A buyer's checklist completed. That was part of your listing or buying presentation. That buyer's checklist is going to go through all the things that you're going to need to ask your buyer just to make sure that you're covered. Okay, it gets you out of jail. It gets you out of the RICO jail that you can be put in if you sell a house to somebody and find out a year later that they did want a house with a pool and you didn't check with the municipality, and it turns out there's this reason why you can't have a pool on that property. They're going to be very upset with you. So number 2, research. Go into GeoWarehouse, public records. Now, you may not know what GeoWarehouse and public records are, so I'm going to teach you a little bit about that. GeoWarehouse is land registry. Okay, it gives information on the sellers of the property, their names, the property description, where it's located. It'll give you a little map. You can even order surveys on there now. So GeoWarehouse is a great opportunity just to double check the information. It'll give you demographic information about the house, and it's available within your MLS system, Matrix or Stratus. There's also public records, which is MPAC. MPAC is the company that looks after the assessment of the house for the municipality. And this is how, and the value of the house that they believe it's not that it's worth, but this is what, it's way off. You're going to go in there and see that a house is listed at 1.1 and it's valued by MPAC at 565. This is just how the taxes are done. Okay, this is the value they put on for tax purpose. But there's some really good reports. This is where I go all the time to print a square footage report to see what the MPAC thinks the square footage of the house is. I always print these reports. So both of them I have shown in a quick video and is located in your Google Classroom as well as on YouTube to click on and just see a quick overview of how to get into GeoWarehouse and public records. So check zoning, allowed uses, depending on what let's say it says it's a duplex. I get this a lot now. It says it's a duplex. I'm like, I don't think it's a duplex. Is it separately metered? Duplex, really anything that has 2 residences in one, right? So you can rent it out. However, there is specific zoning for duplex. So they can call it a duplex all they want. If it's not zoned as a duplex, it's an accessory dwelling. And does that accessory dwelling really have the permitted use for that? So you need to look into these things. Is there a survey for the property? Surveys, are gold, right? Their original surveys are gold. You'll get a copy of a survey or even a plan of subdivision, and it'll tell you, different boundaries and stuff, but not everything's going to be on there. So when you put in a survey clause into your offer, if you know that there's not one available, you can ask for it. They'll probably cross it out. But if it's super important to your buyer that there's a survey because you want to find out what the lot dimensions are for a pool, then you may want to either let them know that it's going to cost a couple $1,000 for one to be done after they purchase it, or that we'll try and ask for a true copy and see if they can find it and include it in the offer. So number 3, have you called the agent? So now you're set and ready. You want to put an offer in. You've checked GeoWarehouse. You've got everything ready. In fact, I even think a little bit before that, I'd call as soon as there is even interest in that property, I'd call that agent that's listed the property and develop a relationship with that agent. We are all on the same team here. So buyers buying agents and selling agents should work together to get a deal done. It's not like we're working apart. And I think a lot of people put that wall up and start thinking that this is the evil other agent that we're supposed to negotiate against and try and do the best. We are trying to do the best for our clients, but it's best done with a good relationship so that we can all come together. These are the questions you want to ask that agent right away, right? Call them and say, listen, just showed the property, going to go to my office. There's interest here. Are there any other offers currently on the property? Have they had any offers on the property? Is there anything I should know about the property? Tell me a bit about your sellers. Why are they selling? You could even ask them. Now, they may or may not give you this information, but it's good to ask. Okay. I've had agents that, like, I'm almost testing their personality style to find out what sort of agent I'm going to be negotiating with. If it's an agent like, oh yeah, the sellers, they're moving out west. They're actually getting a divorce. One's moving out west, one's moving out east. You're first of all, you've got an agent that's probably going to be an easy person to negotiate with, because they're already telling you things they shouldn't, right? And their motivations. So but these are nice little ways of finding out how this process is going to go. What sort of closing dates the seller's looking for. And there's a bunch of other questions that you can ask, and just to get an idea, just it could be about the property itself. So do your research, write these things down, go back to your buyer and say, okay, here's what I found out, right? They're looking to hold off offers until tomorrow. They've got some interest, and I think they're trying to get some multiples happening here. And you may say, and remember, you're representing the interest of your buyer. So if that's the case, as a team, you and the person you're representing, as a team, you make a decision. Are we going to say, yeah, I know they asked for 24, but let's give them an offer fairly strong. You seem you want the property. Let's talk about price, but let's do it for tonight, and we'll only give them till 11 o'clock tonight. And we'll sort of, let's say, bully the offer, but we'll try and get it done tonight rather than trying to get them say, you know what, we're moving on to another property tomorrow. We've got a great offer for you tonight. And give it to them. If they say, no, I can't present it tonight, maybe put it together anyway and submit it. So now they have to present it, right? You're forcing them. That's why a bully offer is a bully offer. It's not because you asked permission. It's because you did it. So anyway, there's just some of the things that you're going to look at and question. And individual situations, they're going to vary, right? Some people will hold off, some won't. Some are out of town, some are out of province, out of country, so you're going to have to take the lead from the agent, but at the same time, just be careful with it that you're also representing your buyer at the same time. Our administration are here for you to help type offers. We're assuming you've done your representation paperwork from the buyer presentation in the last session, but if you haven't, you've got to do that, right? If you're comfortable with web forms, that's fine. You can use web forms. If you're not, and you want to use our cheat sheet, we do have a physical cheat sheet you can fill out, pen to paper. I'm not a pen to paper person. So I developed something this year called virtualoffers.ca. I took the cheat sheet, made it digital. And if you go to virtualoffers.ca, you can just type in what you're looking for in your offer. It's a very easy process. So I've been told. I tried to make it as easy as possible. So that will go straight to the front desk that you choose, and they will contact you, start typing the offer and put it in your web forms, and then email you a copy. If you never want to go into web forms, that's okay. We can send it to you in an email. You can click on it, print it off at home, and do it old school pen to paper after we send it to you. So you have different options, cheat sheet or virtualoffers.ca. With the cheat sheet or virtual offer, they're also going to fill in the other documents. So there's a spot for you to say, I want as well a Form 801, a confirmation of cooperation, a buyer representation, a FinTrack form, all the forms you're looking for. So you'll just check mark that. They'll send you that as well. No problem. Other documents you may need. So we have Form 801 to consider. Obviously, most, if not all, offices are now demanding 801 to be filled in. So fill it in. It's in your buyer's package in web forms, but we will also send that. Schedule B. Now that's one that I tend to forget. I fill out all the paperwork. And when I was selling, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to go get Schedule B. Schedule B is typically attached to the listing in your MLS. Okay. Or call the listing brokerage or the agent, just say, can you send me over Schedule B? If they don't have Schedule B, don't worry, they may not. That's okay, right? That just means that the deposit is not, they don't have to put a clause in there that states the deposit's either getting interest or not getting interest. So if it's not bearing interest, they don't have to disclose that it is bearing interest. That's why sometimes brokerages will not have a Schedule B. But what Schedule B is, and a reminder what Schedule B is, it's an additional set of clauses that the other broker wants to attach to the offer. You do not have to accept any of those clauses. The one you will accept is how their deposit is being handled, but any additional things like the buyer agrees to. There's some out there is like buyer agrees to forfeit the deposit if they don't close the deal or something. That's not a good clause, right? So you'll call your manager and say, I don't like the sound of this clause. What do you think? And we'll say, absolutely not, cross it out and submit it without it. So keep in mind, you can change that. Any other representation documents that you have to sign with your client located in the buyer package provided, we can all look after all that as well and see the requirement list of all paper that's mandatory when handing in, and we'll have that list for you as well. So I'll show you. So those are all the mandatory documents in every deal that needs to be filled out, okay? All requests made to the admin must be in writing. So we have had agents that got comfortable with their admin and called over to Emily and said, hey, Emily, remember the offer I did last week? Can you type me up another offer? Same clauses. Here's the buyer's name. Anything I can tell you over the phone. We will not do the offer. We cannot do the offer. We need it in writing. It's a RICO requirement that the front admin, anybody who's non-licensed, they do not construct offers. What they do is they take the information provided by you, the real estate agent who is licensed, and we transpose that into and do only administrative stuff. So that's why we cannot send out for signatures. We cannot have your buyer come in and sign with our admin. We can't do things like that. It's against RICO rules. So it must be in writing on the cheat sheet or the virtual offer. It's easier for you to. If there's a mistake, we know, where the mistake happened. It is always, if it is a mistake by our admin typing an offer, which nobody's perfect, things can be misspelled or misprinted or forgotten, that you're responsible for that mistake. Administration is only transposing with the information you provide. If they've made a mistake, it's because you didn't look it over and make sure it was correct. So please look it over and make sure it's correct before you submit the offer. Okay, you are responsible as the realtor for that information. Here is the cheat sheet. This is an example of a cheat sheet. I look at this and my head explodes. I think it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so much information there. And I'm so used to not writing things down anymore. I try, I have notepads and stuff, but filling in things like this, it would take me half hour, an hour to do, opposed to the virtualoffers.ca. So it's up to you. Print this off, fill it in, send it into our front desk. They'll call you back and say, I can't understand what you wrote here. Don't see your handwriting and all that kind of stuff. And it's just not as easy as the next slide, which is virtualoffers.ca. And by the way, we own virtualoffers.ca and virtualoffer.ca. So if you mess that up, that's okay. C21 virtual offer. Now we can type offers during our normal course of business, right? Not after hours, but so be prepared, obviously. It's always good to know web forms and be able to go through an offer process yourself, just in case you get an offer that you need to do at 11 o'clock at night. My first offer was done at 3 in the morning, done at 3. I typed it at 11 and it was presented and finally got done at 3 in the morning. You do need to be signed under the Century 21 account. So these Google forms are security forms that we can only provide if we know who obviously you are and that you're part of the Century 21 system. So you do need to use your first last name at century21.ca when you're logged into Google to access virtual offers. By the way, this virtualoffer.ca is also available in Remarketer. So if you sign up for, obviously have a Remarketer account in our brokerage hub, there's a little button there for virtual offers as well. Okay. So you just fill in the information and go through that process. Okay. So, but when you're constructing as an offer, it is your realtor role to represent your client's best interest and as effectively as possible. So spend the time to do the due diligence. We've talked about that. You're obviously going to decide what clauses to include. So Form 100 is your typical agreement of purchase and sale. Okay, that's where the meat and potatoes of the offer is done. Actually, it is your offer, right? And you'll fill in the blanks as you go through it, and then you'll get to Schedule A. And Schedule A will include clauses that you want to include. We have already templated in web forms the I don't know, 12 or 13 different clauses that we want you to use in every single offer. Even if you're taking away home inspection or financing, we want you to include it, okay, and then cross it out and have them initial, and if you're deleting it, that's fine. Regardless of whether you're crossing out, deleting it, you use Form 127. I'm going to show you that form in a second. And that means you're removing something that's very, very important in an offer, such as conditions on financing and home inspection, that we may want to make sure that it was your client's decision, not yours. You didn't force them. You didn't tell them it's a good idea to remove those clauses. You're saying, by removing those clauses, you have a better chance of obviously winning the deal. However, you also are not going to have the ability to back out of the deal, right? So there's risk reward. Have the home inspection done ahead of putting in the offer. Spend a couple $100. You don't have to get a written report. It's a little bit less. Do a pre-inspection before you put in the offer, and that way you can remove the fine or the home inspection condition by still representing your client's interest. So that's just a little tip. When you're dealing with holding off offers. But when you're talking about the clauses to include, we provide the typical ones. Other clauses in the agreement that you should consider is, and here's some examples, should a house have a pool? We'll need a pool related clause, right? That it's, some guarantees that certain things will be working, maybe that it'll be winterized, or that, there's a little bit of a representation of warranty should it already be winterized. That by June 25th, we can come back and say certain things weren't working and you're still responsible for that. So there's some pool stuff. Some homes may still be on a septic well, specific circumstances, cottage properties, century homes, homes that have aluminum wiring. These are all things that may have separate clauses. Speak to your manager, of course, especially if it's your first or few first offers, and get their opinion on those clauses to include if there are weird and different situations, right? I often ask, if we're one-on-one with each other, can you think of some of those other situations? Put yourself in a buying perspective. Is there any other situations you can think of that may come up, right? So let's talk about offer registrations. You've designed your offer. You went into web forms. You've got the great clauses put in there. You're all set to go. And you have it signed. So, what is registrations of offers? Now, I want to let everyone know that the term registered offer or registration or registered offer has no definition from RICO standpoint. So if somebody ever went to RICO and said, well, they registered the offer, they called me and said they had an offer. There's no registration system that is consistent throughout our market, as well as that is regulated. So keep that in mind, because when you do register an offer, essentially what you're doing is you're telling people that you have a signed offer. You should be, but again, there's some things tips and tricks there. I'm going to talk to you a bit about this. So as soon as your client is interested, make sure to give that agent a call. Tell them that they're interested and ask those questions. Ask these questions: has any offers been registered, been presented in the past? When can they present the offer? These are more questions to ask. And then call the brokerage after you've sort of got that offer ready and let them know that you want to register an offer. You're going to use that term because it is a term that we have come up with as an industry to stay organized. It's all about organization. There is some negotiating tactics that people will use, and I suggest you do use some as to when to register. I often ask agents, when would you register the offer? Would you do it 2 days prior to, let's say, the holding off of offers? So you're going to present on Friday. Would you register it today, or would you wait till Friday? My suggestion is register today. Remember, there's no reason why you can't register, and it's okay to register an offer. And as long as that offer hasn't been given, you can say, I'd like to remove that registration. Okay. But if you register, These are the things that can happen. If you register, you get to be kept up to date if there are any other offers. You will not be able to have that house sell underneath you, which means, we're interested, we're going to put an offer in, let's wait till Friday. And then Thursday night they call and say, well, we sold the property already. Well, you're not supposed to, you got to let me know. Well, we did anyway. Well, that's a RICO problem. Well, sure it is, but I still can't get you the property and your person's upset. Why did you let it sell? So register early. The other thing it does is that there's a bit of psychology involved. If I'm booking an appointment on a Thursday and they're holding offers till Friday, and there's already a registered offer, the agent or the buyer may say, well, no, if there's an offer already, forget it. I'm not participating in multiple offers. Buyers hate multiple offers. So you'll scare away some showings, and that's an advantage to you, right? So think about that. If you're related to the buyer, how do you disclose this, right? Registrant disclosure of interest of acquisition form. Present that prior to negotiating the offer. What I mean by that is along with or before, okay, not after. We can't tell the seller later that you're a registered real estate agent that's related to the daughter that's purchasing the property. It's too late. They're going to say, well, had I known that, I didn't realize that they were real estate. It's a rule. So they could get you in trouble for that. You also have to disclose if you know anything about the property. A lot of investors are purchasing properties because they're going to turn it around because they know the seller next door. They have an agreement with, they buy this one for 800,000, they'll sell theirs for 2 million. Or whatever, right? You're trying to do acquisitions. Well, it's against the rules. If you were to buy that for 800, but you knew as a real estate agent that it's worth more than that because there's a developer that would pay more than that, you could be sued for that difference or any damages done because of that. So you have to disclose if you're buying on your behalf, your own behalf, or anybody who's related to you. And if you're not sure if they're related, then they're related, right? Anybody you should disclose. Right? Ex-wife, 20 years ago, ex-husband, whatever it is. Yeah, still disclose it. Why? Because there's an interest there. Right? So I don't know if that would actually, they do say direct, indirect, but just disclose. Why not? Note, you will have a much higher chance of success negotiating an offer when it is done in person. Do your best to let the listing agent know that is how you'd like to handle the process. And then a big asterisk here, COVID-19. Rules have changed. Okay, we put this in there because obviously face-to-face is best in most cases. Obviously now with COVID, they're doing virtual presentations. I've seen some people use Zoom to do presentations. It's nice to be there, hand in the offer to the office maybe. Do your best to not just send off an offer by email and say, yeah, I guess we'll find out, sometime today. Be in control of the situation. Ask the agent, did you get the offer? When will you be presenting? When should I hear back from you? And if you haven't heard back, then you'll call them, do your best to stay in contact. And here's some of the things when presenting the offer that are tips. When you're presenting in person, make sure be on time, dress to impress. You're there representing somebody, be professional. Bring at least 2 copies of the offer, copy of the listing, any comparables to help negotiate your price. I'm going to tell you 98% of the time this isn't happening. 5 years ago, 98% of the time this was happening. So things have changed, but we like to keep this in there because I hope we're, knock on wood, and we're hoping it goes back to the way it was. All realtors have their own negotiating skills. We suggest when representing a person, be courteous, polite to the sellers, and even pay a compliment. You're there obviously to do your best for your buyers. If the agent and the sellers despise you because you have insulted them, they have despised your offer and your buyer will not be represented properly. So all that tough stuff, the hard-nosed tactics, we'll do it off to the side to the agent, right? Be nice about it, but the hard-nosed tactics is, listen, this is what my buyer will pay, and this is what we think it's worth. And you need to tell your seller to accept it. Sellers tend to be emotional and quickly get their back up. So just, don't upset them. Let their agent will know the best way to present your objections. So if you do, I've often done that. I have a low ball offer, right? I call the listing agent and said, I know it's low, right? However, based on what you've listed it for, it's a lot less, but this is really, with all our comparables, what we think it's worth. So is there some way that, how's your seller going to react to this? And they'll say they're going to hate it. They say, well, do your best, do me a favor, do your best to let them know that they do love their house. They do want to be in that area, but they just believe that at this point in time, this is what it's worth because here's the comparables and stuff, right? We're not trying to insult you. And then they go back and they'll know how to handle that seller, right? They'll know how to present that on your behalf. So just little things like that. If they do ask you to email it, that's fine. You can ask to drop it off at their office or home. I like to give them a physical copy in person. It puts eye to eye, make sure they understand that you are very interested in getting this deal done. As much as a listing agent will try and take control, you try and do your best that if they're not in control, if things start to go crazy, then take control. Sometimes the listing agent's new, right? And maybe you're new too, but it just seems, they take your offices. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to try and get a hold of them tonight, but maybe tomorrow. And it's just like, wait a second, I'm going to make a suggestion. Give them a call me back. When I can present my offer to them, you let me know the time and then I'll come and drop it off, or, let them know that you would like this handled professionally. And there's no sort of up in the air of when things are happening. Make sure you have an idea. Include your buyer in every step of the process, right? They're excited, need to clear constant communication of what you're doing, how you're doing it. They need to be a part of the process. In the end, it should be their price. It should be their offer. So as much as they're going to look for you to take a bit of a lead, in the end, present them with a couple options and see how they feel on how you should present their offer. It's a team that you're in right from the beginning. Tell them that, right? You're a team putting this together, and of course you'll give them the suggestions. When you're representing in multiple offers, okay, this is a whole separate section, and keep an eye out for a video coming to your YouTube shortly, because I would like to do a quick session just on multiple offers. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks just as an overview, but it's really got to the point where, many years into this as being a common thing. And it's very important these steps are sort of followed, right? Prepare your client for multiple offers, educate them, tell them how it's going to go. The buyer should be given the direction how strong the offer will need to be to complete. To compete. So they're in competition. They need to know ahead of time that the percentage chances of winning with certain clauses, but tell them there's also risks in those clauses and they need to accept those risks or overcome that objection to minusing the home inspection by having a pre-home inspection, right? Same with financing. If you don't know their mortgage broker, there's a problem. It's a 50-50 on these mortgages these days. And meaning you've done 50% of the work and they need to do 50% of the work of getting them approved and make sure it runs smooth on closing date. So you guys not being in contact with each other is probably not a good idea. If they decide to remove those conditions, they have to fill in Form 127. Okay, it's conditions and offer, buyer acknowledgement form. I always forget the name of that, so I just remember it as Form 127 now. And it is the get out of jail free card. That is your, I explained them they needed to get financing. They said, no, it was fine. And they've signed the form and now they can't close on the deal. It's not your fault, right? That is a very important form. Step 2, type a strong offer. Obviously going through that process and saying, we've done our comparables. What price would you like to go with? And they'll say, well, I'd like to try it at, right? And say, listen, I've already been told by the selling agent, bring our best offer. We need to go strong. We may not get a second chance. What would you like to go with? Well, it's listed at $799. Everything seems to be selling around $850. I'm happy with $850. Then you ask them. There's 2 questions I always ask when you're typing an offer and you're dealing with price. First one is, tomorrow, will you be upset with me if it goes for $860? Oh yeah, I'd be pretty upset. I would pay $860. And say, well, I might want to go with $860. Okay, let's go $860. And of course, the next question is going to be, well, what if it goes for $865? Would you be upset with me? And they kind of laugh, and you laugh along with them and say, I know, I don't mean to push. I just want to make sure that you're not going to be upset with me if it goes for any more, because we may not have a second chance. And they'll go, you know what? Yeah, $865. That's the best I can do. And of course, you just ask, what if it goes for $865? No, you have fun with it. Try and make it a little bit little bit more than what they, maybe like 866, just to be an odd number. So if they're the same, one's better by $1,000, talk to them about the price. Don't just assume 850 was their best offer. Okay, because tomorrow they'll be upset with you if it goes for 865, right? They will be, and you're going to lose them as a buyer. So ask the question, are you going to be upset with me? As soon as they say, no, that's it, I will not be upset with you. Great. Here's the second question you're going to ask them. And it's funny. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask you one more question. Tomorrow, are you going to be upset with me that you think you overpaid for it? And again, you want to hear them say, no, don't worry. It's a great process you're taking me through. 865 is exactly where I want to be. I'm not going to be upset with you. It goes, you can't lose if you ask those two questions, okay, on multiple offers. It's the best advice I ever got given to me in real estate, is how to deal with multiple offers. And those are the two questions you need to remember, okay? Will you be upset with me tomorrow if it goes for more? And will you be upset with me tomorrow if you may think you've overpaid? And then as soon as it's all done, give them some pats on the back. Say, listen, I needed to go through those two questions. I really appreciate that you worked with me on that. I do think, based on where the market is, and the fact that, yeah, maybe, it's a little bit higher than the last one went for, but you just set a new record in the area, and that's not a bad thing. The next one tomorrow is going to go for 10% more or whatever. So I'm very happy that you went with that price, and I'm very confident that the way the market's going, you're making a great decision. 10 years from now, you'll never remember you paid $10,000 more than you thought you should, right? You're just going to be happy that you were in that house. So make them feel comfortable. You will have buyer's remorse tomorrow. We all do, but don't worry. I think we're doing the right thing. Okay. So register the offer early. We talked about that already. Present your offer. Okay. Again, we've talked a lot about that. In person's best. However, presentation is how you win multiple offers. Great price, great conditions. We've seen our client or our agents send pictures of their clients with their family and the dog, handwritten notes, begging them to take their offer, telling them how much they want to be in there. To win an offer nowadays, when there's 26 offers, you're going to need to pull out all the stops. Having a letter of pre-approval from the lender, also having that deposit along with it, already done. I mean, that's a strong offer. Somebody comes with a great agent that's presented really well, established a good rapport, sent in the letter, has the deposit check with, that's a big one nowadays. You're going to get that offer, even if the other one's $5,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000, $30,000 more. They will go with your offer, because these days people walk away the next day and they don't bring the deposit check, or they just change their mind overnight, and it was a shaky presentation. And you can almost, as a good agent these days, as a listing agent, you can smell it a mile away. You just see the person, the way that they presented the offer, and the unprofessionalism and the lack of deposit, or lack of this, lack of that. So they will go with your offer if you do it correctly. When you do remove those conditions, again, Form 127, get it a jail-free card. Here are your requirements. These are every deal must have: a working with a realtor, buyer representation or a customer service agreement, confirmation of cooperation representation, an agreement of purchase and sale, a Form 801. This is Form 801s we ask for on every deal now. Even if you're representing the buyer, typically you'll ask for Form 801s, definitely on the selling side. But it's nice to have. Copy of the property listing we want. The sales information sheet filled out. I'm going to show you that in a second. Waivers and fulfillments, if any. And then now digital certificates, if we're representing the buyer, it's great to have. So pull that off and get that. On the selling side, we now have it with our system, but it's good to have a digital certificate printed off from the, if you're doing things digitally, signing digitally. Deposit receipt. You're going to hand in a deposit if you're representing a buyer, so you're going to need that. Receipt of funds for FinTrack, 100%, and the individual information writer for FinTrack, as well as that signed trade sheet. Now, the signed trade sheet will come later. Everything from the last thing on here up, you'll hand in with the deal, and get that deal in as soon as you can. If you're missing some of this, still hand it in. We want to get it into the system and recorded. and you can follow up with the other stuff. The signed trade record sheet comes later when they input the information, create a trade record, which is the input and the information that they've put in, and just here it all is in one sheet. You'll sign off saying, yeah, everything's correct. Make sure you read it. I've got examples of these things here. First of all, the agent sales information sheet. This must be filled in. And remember, you just did a huge deal. It's great. Even a small deal, doesn't matter. You're making money, right? And the important thing to do is fill this in as much as you can. Our deal admin put through over 4,000 transactions a year, and they are there to input deals and to get everything together for the lawyer. If things are incorrect or missing, it takes them sometimes, and 4,000 transactions, each transaction has, 30 pieces of paperwork. They got to go through every single one, including the agreement of purchase and sale, make sure it's correct. They're doing a lot of compliance. If these aren't filled in, it really, really takes them a lot more time. So be nice and fill in as much as you can. All right, here's your list, checklist and everything. And we're going to write to what is RealSatisfied. So all that process, before we get to RealSatisfied, the whole process of putting in an offer involves a lot of stuff done up front, right? Research, finding out what the client's looking for, make sure you're obviously representing their interest as best as you can. Developing the offer. We can help with virtualoffers.ca or the cheat sheet and type them for you. But if you want to get into web forms, you watch the video and give it a shot yourself, that's great. Send it over to us first. Okay, send over the deal. Now, what I do with Quickstart 4 is I ask the people that are taking this course is to fill in a web form offer. Try and do an offer on one of the properties. Do it on your own home or a home that's listed. I do it on a home that's listed because it has all the information on the MLS. And then submit it to your manager and say, what do you think? And they'll go through it and they'll, make sure that everything was done properly for you. So do that as practice before next session and send it into your manager and have them look it over. It's always best to do it ahead of time before you're stuck in having to do an offer and you've never done one before. So start practicing, okay, and get that process done. As soon as the deal's done, it's high fives all around, but the deal's not done completely yet until it's closed. So we still have to do things like buyer visits and following up with your client. One of the sessions, even sending them the link for a MoveSnap invite. We do automate MoveSnap, and going into that, we teach that in a coming session. Can't remember what session we do MoveSnap, but during that time where you firm up a deal and close, get them using MoveSnap to help them move. But today, what I want to focus on is RealSatisfied, because when you've completed a deal, our RealSatisfied system sends out a questionnaire and testimonial request. And we've got thousands done. And it really has littered Google with great things that people say about our agents. And that helps you a lot. I bet you they have statistics to show that, let's say, take a hotel, for example, that would increase their sales by over 50%. Because they decided to put their testimonials online. Oh, they had great testimonials online on Google or Facebook, or in this case, a company called RealSatisfied that specifically centers on real estate. And we automate this process. We send out the request on your behalf. However, if, for example, you would like to have control of sending out that request, you can ask your manager and they will turn that request on for you to send out the request instead of us do it. There are times that we've maybe read the email wrong, maybe the email was wrong, and those don't go out. So having your own control of your RealSatisfied account might be a good idea, and we are allowing that, but we do it on an individual basis just so we can show you how to do it. So what is RealSatisfied? It is your performance evaluation online reputation on Google. When people Google your name, RealSatisfied will come up on the first screen with the 4.8 stars out of 5, just like you would if you're searching for the best pizza place in town, right? So, and what that does is people don't choose the real estate agent because of reviews. But what they do is when you talk to somebody about possibly doing business with them, they'll say, let me see what other people are saying. And as long as people are saying nice things and they're saying the things that you're saying that you can do for them, and they now will know that that is true because other people are saying it. We have a 99% satisfaction rating on RealSatisfied. So don't worry about RealSatisfied giving you bad reviews. You do want some constructive criticism where needed. If you're a 5 out of 5 and you have 36 reviews, people will not take you seriously. That's why it's much better to have a 4.8, 4.9 instead of a 5. But so don't worry about if you happen to get a little bit different than 5. All our agents are doing great with RealSatisfied. It really does give good validation from past clients and customers. Okay. There's some cool things also in RealSatisfied. If you log in if you go into our brokerage hub and click on RealSatisfied, you'll log in using your Century 21 email address. Make sure you're signed in, and it will log you in automatically. You will be able to do some cool things. Any of those techie guys, girls out there, and any of you are techie, then you can go in there and copy and paste certain code in order to put on your website, for example, or use it in any of your blog posts, or just some cool things you can do with RealSatisfied and get a good reputation out there. So just wrapping it up for session 4, the homework. Keep seeing houses. You want to know the market. Add 10 more contacts in your CRM with addresses. Complete that offer I was talking about on web forms and send it to your manager. Use a house that's currently listed on the MLS, and then you can use fake buyers if needed. And then schedule your next Quickstart session with your manager. We will have another session in 1 to 2 weeks. I'm not sure if it's next week or the week after. Quickstart 5 will be coming to YouTube or to a Zoom call near you. And remember that just having satisfied customers isn't good enough. You really want to have a booming business. You'll have to create raving fans. And that's the truth. The truth is that if you go through the buying process, have a proper presentation, put together a great offer, represent your client's interests, get them the house, they're going to be super happy, and you will get referrals. There's no doubt, especially if you have that CRM up and going and remind them every so often that you're in the industry and you're willing to take on any new business with their referrals. You'd be happy to do that. So these systems are in place for foundationally a great business. And if you are completing the homework, you are going to have success in this industry. Thank you so much for watching. If you like our video, please hit the like button, the subscribe, and even the little bell to get notifications, just so you can stay in touch and watch more of these great videos.